Class 2, Calcium Carbonate Craze or Ancient Earth. Here is an overview of the class session. Please see your curriculum for a list of items to prepare prior to this class. These can be found under the Prep Steps heading. K-3 instructors, please note the differences in your curriculum. Please see the timestamps in the description below for relevant walkthroughs. Activity 1, Pair and Share. Activity 1, Pair and Share, was first presented in Class 1, Activity 2, so we'll begin this walkthrough with Activity 2. If you are new to teaching the AKA Science curriculum or would like a refresher, please see the video guide for that class. Activity 2, Fun with Fossils. For K-3 instructors, this activity is slightly different and appears as Activity 3, Fossil Footprint. For a walkthrough of your Activity 2, Weather Journal, go to the timestamp on your screen. For an explanation of the differences in Activity 3, Fossil Footprint, go to the timestamp on your screen. The goal of this activity is to learn how a fossil preserves aspects of an object's original structure. This activity is linked to a survey question as found in the printed curriculum. This activity will be done individually by students. First, show your students the clamshell fossil without telling them what it is, and ask them what they think it is. Pass the fossil around for students to see. Next, distribute an index card, a pencil, and a ½ ounce of Play-Doh to each student, and instruct them to form the Play-Doh into a ball and flatten it into a thick pancake on top of their index card. Tell them to imagine that the Play-Doh is sand at the bottom of the ocean, and give each student a clamshell to press into the Play-Doh however they like. Start a discussion about how the shell could be buried further and eventually become a fossil. The student should now remove their shell from the Play-Doh, form it into a ball again, and make a new pancake. Now have them press the ridged side of the shell gently into the Play-Doh, being careful not to go all the way through to the index card. Meanwhile, prepare the plaster of Paris by mixing an ounce of water with all the plaster of Paris inside the 8-ounce cup, stirring slowly with a plastic knife to avoid making bubbles. You should aim for a looser consistency so that no bubbles are formed in the molds when you fill them. Have students imagine their shell dissolving as they gently remove their shell from the Play-Doh. Fill each student's impression with plaster of Paris, scooped with the tip of the knife, and scrape away any excess. Have the students write their name on the index card and set them aside to dry until the last 5 to 10 minutes of class. Continue to discuss fossils using the prompts in your printed curriculum, and once the plaster is dried, have the students carefully remove their plaster shell from the Play-Doh. Do not rinse the plastic shells with water, as they will dissolve. Dispose of the cup of plaster, plastic knife, and use Play-Doh. Activity 3. Got calcium carbonate? This activity is linked to a survey question, as found in the printed curriculum. The goal of this activity is to use patterns of cause and effect to identify materials that contain calcium carbonate. Parts of this activity will be done by pairs of students and partially in groups of 4. Remind the students of how they pretended their shells dissolved in the previous activity, Fun with Fossils. Pair up the students and give each pair a 9-inch paper plate, a pencil, and 2 spiral shells. The pair should now draw a line down the middle of their plate and place 1 shell on either side of the line, with the open side of the shell facing out. 1 student from each pair should be on each side of the line. Tell the students that you will use vinegar and lemon juice to test how the shells react. You can have the students theorize why using the discussion prompts found in your printed curriculum. Give each pair a 2-ounce cup of vinegar and a 2-ounce cup of lemon juice, along with 2 pipettes. Depending on your students, you may have to demonstrate how to use a pipette beforehand. 1 student will put several drops of lemon juice onto the shell on their side of the line, and then wait to observe what happens. Then the other student in the pair will place several drops of vinegar onto their shell, and wait to observe what happens again. Discuss what happened afterwards. For the next stage of the activity, pair up the existing pairs into groups of 4 for sharing materials, and have them hypothesize which of the 3 substances, sand, limestone grit, and crust oyster shells, will react the same way as the spiral shells. Give each group 2 plastic spoons and 3 1-ounce cups, each containing one of the new materials. Have each pair scoop a small amount of each onto both sides of each plate. 4 piles will be scooped from each cup. Have pairs test each pile, first with the lemon juice, then with the vinegar. Give each reaction some time, as they might take a moment to be visible. Have the students discuss why some of the materials bubbled and others didn't, and the role calcium carbonate had to play. Dispose of the paper plate and the cup of the lemon juice, but do not dispose of the cups of vinegar, as they will be used in the next activity. Activity 4. Acid rain and ocean acidification. This activity is linked to a survey question, as found in the printed curriculum. The goal of this activity is to observe how acid rain and ocean acidification can erode natural and man-made solid structures that contain calcium carbonate. This activity will be done in pairs. Mention to the students that calcium carbonate is an ingredient in types of rocks that can be used to make things like statues and buildings. Get your students thinking about what would happen if you poured acid onto one of those structures. Display a piece of chalk and tell them that, like some structures, it also contains calcium carbonate. Give each student a piece of chalk and a 1-ounce cup, and make sure they have their pipette from Activity 3. Have the students break their piece of chalk in two, setting half in their cup and half aside. If it breaks unevenly, use the smaller piece for this activity. Pairs of students should have their cups of vinegar from the previous activity. Refill the cups to be halfway full if necessary. Instruct the students to slowly drip vinegar onto the chalk in the cup, and to observe the reaction that follows. Once the chalk begins to dissolve, relate the reaction to erosion through the discussion prompts found in your printed curriculum. Afterwards, students should wash their hands when necessary, and can take home the half of the chalk that was set aside in the Ziploc bag if they wish to conduct the reaction again at home, with adult supervision. Activity 5, Daily Debrief. Activity 5, Daily Debrief, was first presented in Class 1, Activity 5. If you are new to teaching the AKA Science curriculum or would like a refresher, please see the video guide for that class. That's all for Class 2. See you in the next one. K-3 instructors, please continue watching for your curriculum modifications. Activity 3, Fossil Footprint. This activity is similar to the 4 through 6 curriculum, Class 2, Activity 2, Fun with Fossils, with the modification of using plastic dinosaurs to make imprints in place of clamshells. The discussion prompts are different as well and can be found in your printed curriculum. Activity 4, Paleontologist's Mystery. The goal of this activity is to use footprints to understand what happened in the past. This activity will start with students in groups of 4 and then transition to peers. Start by giving each group of 4 students a paleontologist mystery worksheet, explain what a paleontologist is, and ask them what they notice about the pictures on the sheet. Now with students in pairs, give each student an index card and a small amount of Play-Doh, and have them flatten out the Play-Doh into a pancake on top of their index card. One student from each pair secretly makes a set of 3 footprints with the 2-legged dinosaur in the flattened out Play-Doh. The other student in the pair then looks at the footprints and uses their feet to try to follow the steps to make a dance move. Then repeat with the students switching roles. They can also line up both their index cards in a row and try to follow both card steps one after the other. Activity 5. Guess Who? The goal of this activity is to give students an opportunity to think like a paleontologist. This activity will be done in pairs. Ask students to imagine that they just discovered a new type of dinosaur. Have them draw what their dinosaur's footprints look like. Now, on a second piece of paper, have them draw what their partner's dinosaur would look like based on the footprints.